The Black Fat Femme Podcast is a production of iHeartRadio and Dr. John Paul, LLC. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Black Fat Femme Podcast, where all the intersections of identity are celebrated. I'm one of your hosts, John, also known as Dr. John Paul. And while Joho was getting his life on a boat, I was out here praying someone would throw me a life raft because, my God, I prayed to be this busy, but Jesus Christ, not this busy. I have literally not come up for air at all today. But I digress, and we move on. How are you, Joho? How was your trip?
Hello, fam.
I hate you so much.
I am so happy to be back on land, girl.
Okay.
Oh my God. Let me just tell you, first of all, Norwegian Cruise Line owes me nothing.
I figured.
The food, the views, the luxury of it all. It was everything. I was actually gagged at how much fun I had. The few parts I was like, what is happening, was the last day. The last day, we were supposed to go to the Bahamas, and it was canceled because there was a tropical storm coming.
Oh.
And so we turned around to avoid the storm. But we were still in the storm a little bit. So on the second to last day, it's storming, right? And we're seeing lightning strike in the ocean.
That's scary.
One, my first thought was like, if lightning strikes the ocean, do all the fish fry in there? Like, what happens when lightning strikes the ocean? So, just curious. But at one point, the water was so like this, right? The boat is like waving and shit. And I'm walking from the observation deck, which is like a the deck of like panoramic views, and I'm walking on the left side. And as I walk, I'm like, why do I feel like I'm tilted? I don't know why, but I feel like I'm tilted.
Because you were.
And I look outside the window, and I was like, oh, the water looks so close. Like, I wonder why. Maybe it's high tide. Then I'm like, let me just check the other side, the right side. I was like, bitch, that's the sky. Girl, why was we tilted?
Oh.
Like, it wasn't it wasn't like so bad that we're like out of the water or anything, but like we're rocking so much that we were tilting a little bit. That I'm like, oh, that's the ocean's really close right now to this not this close to the window, but like it feels like it's close to the window compared to the other side, which I was like, girl, where's the ocean? So I was like, oh my God. I was like, we about to get got. It was so rough. And then also whenever I cruise, I always come back with vertigo. So the way my body still feels the ocean rocking when I lay down, and the way I have no balance standing up, girl, trash. So Norwegian owes me nothing. My body owes me everything. But this was just so fun. And I'm so glad I survived, because last episode we recorded, I was like, y'all, if you don't hear back from me, I got
yes.
by the pirates or by the cruise ship itself. And here I am living to tell the tale. So I'm so thankful to be here today with you.
I'm thankful nobody got on your boat and said, I am the captain now. And think about it.
Girl.
I don't know. Do you watch 9/11 or 911?
911? Oh, the way, John, the way I
gosh.
watched the premiere episode, it was like,
well, no,
and I was like,
this is one episode. They're on like episode
no, it's
3
episodes
and they're
long.
still on the boat.
Yes. But I had watched the premiere episode before I left, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then I saved the second episode until I got back. I was like, I will not watch this episode while I am on the ship, because last thing I need is this shit to prophesize into my life. So yes,
absolute trash. But it's really, it's good TV. It's good trash TV. So this is not a plug. This is not a paid plug, but this is a way for me to say, please go watch 911 now on ABC. They are no longer on Fox. Now on ABC. It's a good fun time. Anyway, with that being said, we are going to introduce our amazing third seat this week, our amazing guest in the third seat this week. I always love, you'll find that I do this often on the show, is that I often go off script. But I will say that I did have a chance meeting with him during the pandemic. Back in the days, do people still use Clubhouse? Like,
no, it's funny because you put that in the show notes, and I was like, Clubhouse? I forgot she existed.
Right.
Like that was a time to be alive. Was Clubhouse? I have no idea.
Clubhouse walked so that Twitter could run. And in terms
Spaces.
of
Yep.
spaces. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really cool that Clubhouse
Mm-hmm.
was doing something that wasn't a anyway. We were on a panel about being out and queer and doing stuff in the industry, and it was really cool. This was like what, 3 whole ass years ago. This was in 2021. And we've just been following each other. And what's also really cool is that we're repped by the same agency. So we get a lot of the same opportunities and we get to do a lot of stuff in the same vein. So it's been really, really cool. But with that being
Yes.
said, this guest
Twin,
is a
where
leading
have you
voice
been?
of on power, politics, and pop culture in a global market. They are a trilingual tech enthusiast, future climate economist. I swear I can speak, honey, and serial entrepreneur from the South Side of Chicago. I always like to ask people what their take is on South Side. So when we're done with the intro, I'm gonna ask you that. What's your take on the show if you've watched it? And more importantly, a piece of what we're going to be discussing today on the show. They are the founder and CEO of MMG Earth, the first Black and non binary led research and change management firm in the US, and Boundary Work, a public service platform dedicated to raising collective awareness and offering educational information on boundaries for the betterment and the culture and
Yes.
society. And
Yes.
for us as Black Fat Femme folks, please give it up for the wonderful, illustrious Bunny McKensie Mack. How are you, baby?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. That's like probably the best intro I've ever
Oh my
heard.
gosh. I always get that. And I'm just kind of like, it's just a journal bag. I just be in my journal bag. So I'm like,
I
But
love
also,
that.
I do leave like, why does nobody else intro you like this then?
correct.
Because this should be the baseline. This
Right.
Exactly.
should be the
Yeah,
Right.
baseline.
I
Like,
this should be
agree.
the energy that they
Yes.
always give you.
I need to start having intros go through you. You got to approve them first.
it's like we'll review and approve and make sure it's good to
You
go.
say can't
We'll
nobody
film them
else
for
do
you
right.
too.
Can't nobody else do my intro.
Exactly.
Yes,
And if it's
God.
not good enough, send it back.
I know that's right.
Well,
Go ahead.
so as we kick off the intro, we're gonna kick off our segment like we usually do every week with our good girl Miss Tisha Campbell giving her flowers for I'm Still Here. And to kick us off this week, Manny, I want to ask you, since we're gonna be talking a lot about identity and tech in this episode, I'm curious to ask, just as a accoutrement to this, how has the internet helped you find, create, or shape chosen family and community?
Great question. So I'll say that, for me, the first time that I ever saw in real time Black femmes grounded in their power and their politic was on social media.
Mm,
And that was through specifically seeing Black femmes write about identity, about Blackness, about consent, about queerness, about rest, about friendship. And that contributed to really shaping my view of myself and the world. Um, I think that the space that the internet has created has helped me also to find a voice. The
mhm.
internet in itself, we know that there are no inherently safe spaces on the internet,
Right.
but we also know that the internet does have the potential to connect people who, this society has been designed to disenfranchise. That's one of the reasons why the US government wants to shut down TikTok right now,
Mhm.
because they know that the more that we talk to each other, the
Mm-hmm.
harder it becomes to conceal how power works on a deeper level. So like I've met two of my closest friends, one on Twitter when it was still Twitter, and the other on Instagram.
Mm-mm. Well, it's still
And they're
Twitter to
like,
me.
some of right, exactly.
Ain't nobody calling it X.
I have not met one person who's called it X.
Mm-mm.
Everyone's like Twitter. I mean, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
Twitter. Girl, it's just
Oh my
Twitter.
gosh. That's like the Sears Tower in Chicago, how we're like, we're just gonna continue to call it Sears Tower. We don't care what money changes hands.
Mhm.
That's what it is,
Mhm.
period.
Yeah. But that's cool that you've been able to find people and meet people that you know on the interwebs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's been powerful for me,
Mhm.
for sure.
And John, how about you?
Yeah, so kind of in the same vein, I was going to say, I know for me, one of the things that has been imperative in meeting people online, and really just thinking about kind of how I've created like chosen family. So I'll say this again off the script. It's interesting because I met, shout out to Daryl Hunt. They live in New York. And you know how you sometimes you meet people online and their energy is so great online, and then you meet them in person, you're like, ew, you're terrible. Daryl gave the same energy. Like it was it was a 10-year gap. I met them on Facebook. We would go back and forth in Kiki, and then last year when I was in New York, I called them and I said, "Hey, I'm actually going to be in New York. We should get dinner." And when I tell you, it was like meeting an old friend that I had never met before. Like I literally, it just felt like our souls and our spirits had been like friends for maybe 25, 30 years. It was literally just like meeting
That's
a
beautiful.
long lost cousin. And so now we joke about seeing each other, and I'm definitely going to be seeing them in June when I'm in New York again. Um, but it's just a blessing. I feel like, the internet not only has helped me with my career, but I think it's really interesting and it's really important to note that the internet oftentimes helps people find the resources and people that they need in order to like stay alive. I mean, I think about my friendship with Jessica Marie Garcia and Clarkeisha Kent. Like Clarkeisha Kent helped me throughout my entire book process. I met her online. Ryan Mitchell really helped me kind of get in front of the mic and was the one who told me that podcasting is something I could do. Even thinking about one of my really good my really good Judy's, James Simmons. And now Dr. Simmons, they're a friend to the show. So like, I mean, even following you, Bunny, like the internet did that. It wasn't like you have to give credit where credit is due, and social media is what built that. And so I think about how I've been able to reconnect with friends from college, all the way down to just being like, friends who I know left, our old, and we've talked about this before. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, friends who have left, the organization and now see me living and thriving and going, okay, I want to leave too. How do I do it? Like those are like, that is what the internet does. It gives people hope. It gives people the opportunity to really feel like they're seen. So as much as we shit on the social media and the internet for what it is, it definitely has helped me a lot to find myself in a lot of different spaces. What about you, Joho?
And, I was gonna say so agree to that because and I sometimes I wonder if maybe like not that it's not in a golden age still, but I feel like there's a moment in time where it's kind of like a golden age for community building.
Yeah.
Because I think it's shifted now a lot, and people use it for that still, but now it's more in some ways it's more about like your personal branding than just community building. But I know for me, for a long time, the internet was the opportunity or place for me to express my creativity with others.
Yeah.
And this is like an internet deep cut, and probably is like I should not be saying this, but because it's so like niche nerd for me. But for a long time on Tumblr, I would do RPs or role
Yeah.
plays where we'd use Tumblr to like role play a TV show or a game, and so I was big on the Teen Wolf show on MTV, and would do like different role plays about the show. Like I would always play like I would either play one of the characters from the show, or like there'd be a original character that was made by the moderators, and like like you'd reblog and using gifs, and you would reblog like writing as a character, and I even like moderated one, and I made so many close friends with other players. Like we exchanged Skypes and we talked like every other day. And so that was like, a really great way of how I built community in a time where, especially because I had done it when I just moved to San Diego, where I had left like my 18 years of life in one place to a different place where I knew nobody,
Mm-hmm.
and went from a hugely BIPOC community to a white community, and was like, how do I adjust how to adjust to like being a whole different culture shock and stuff. So that would help me feel connected to people that I could still be friends with and connect with beyond just my like actual locale. And then I think like on Instagram, same with you, John. Like I met with a lot of folks who would follow or vice versa, and we meet up in person or on travels or if we're in the same area, and that was really special too. Like recently a few weeks ago, I was in a coffee shop, and someone came up to me and said how much they love what I put out. And
Mm-hmm.
like I have to say hi, and it was nice because like I was just talking to them. They were like, wow, like you are just like how I thought you'd be,
Right.
and just like how you show yourself on social media, which I was like, thank you, because I strive for that. Like I strive to be the same person no matter where I am. I don't want people to have a different Joho. Like the Joho you see
Is what you
on the
get.
gram is the
Yeah.
Joho
Yeah.
you'll
Yeah.
see in
Yeah.
person. And that was really special. And then me and that person are gonna grab coffee soon, like to actually sit and talk. And that was such a nice way of really seeing how the internet, when wielded for good, can be amazing
Yep.
for us.
Yep.
And when it's bad, it's so bad. But that being said, fam, we have to be our B to get into some commercials. So we will TTYL with y'all and Bunny in just a few moments after this break.
All right, so as we get into Segi number 2, we're getting into our category is, and this week we are touching on something that is honestly a in my opinion, a truly hot topic. I'm seeing it everywhere from people talking about it in, television and film, people talking about it in education, people talking about it in business, or even in nonprofits, right? From all of the stuff surrounding the entertainment industry and even down to Kate Middleton, which pause. I don't believe that was really her. I believe that that was an AI version of her, but we can get into that a little bit later if we want to. Um, there are a lot of people who have been celebrating AI, and I'll be transparent and even saying like I use AI in a lot of ways for my job, especially when it comes to writing. I used it today for a press release to make sure that my press release looked the way it needed to look. Went in, changed things, did things, but again, using AI when it's being wielded for the right thing is a good thing. But there are still a lot of people who are truly extremely and who are extremely leery of it. And so the thing that I think that we want to get into today is really talking about how powerful it is, but also how so many folks are using it to keep Black and LGBTQ people oppressed. And I think that's the thing we really want to drive home today. So with this being said, Bunny, I think one of the ways we wanted to bring you into this conversation is thinking about Black fat femmes. What should we be paying attention to as we start talking about all of the AI conversations that keep popping up?
Oh wow, so many things. So I'll start by saying that, when I really appreciate how we started this conversation. So like thinking about the ways in which we've been able to build community on social media. And so all the things that we love about that and also the things that we dislike about the internet are now being accelerated by the use of artificial intelligence in every direction. When we think about specifically Black fat femmes in particular, we can also think about the manipulation of people's representation, like the manipulation of their literal images. So we know that currently something we've been seeing is that folks on the far right have been replicating images of Black femmes,
Yeah.
showing them attending pro-Trump events, to mislead the
Hmm.
public. So basically just using our likeness and our struggle to create a visual representation of something that will never exist, which is Black fat femmes who are experiencing joy and happiness and stability in a white
Hmm.
supremacist society.
Hmm.
So when you think about that, it's, the power of image. We know that we always say that a picture can sort of speak 1,000 words. So if we take that sort of technology, we put it in the hands of people who want to speak a lot of words that
Hmm.
are homophobic
Yep.
and fatphobic and transphobic and anti-black, that's of course is going to create dangers to us. It's
Hmm.
going to increase the amount of harm that we can experience in the world. And then also in addition to that, I think it's going to have a negative and can have a negative detrimental impact on our own mental health.
Yeah.
um, I would say also it's important to think about labor. So we know that, we live in a society that is capitalist dominant. And in a society like that, how money flows between people,
Mm.
how non-monetary transactions flow between people, it all comes down to labor. Even when we think about artificial intelligence or we think about, historically marginalized people, we know the less privilege you have in our society, the more labor you do,
Yeah.
which is why we have so many Black and brown people in the global South that are being paid pennies or sometimes no money to sift through the data sets that create
Mm.
predictive models like ChatGPT.
Wow.
So those are just two of the things that I think are really important to share in response to that question.
Now I feel guilty for using it,
Ooh.
child. My Lord.
I mean, the answer is that's such a fantastic answer because something I think about a lot is like to your point about the predictive models and what in what goes into it. Like I have no doubt that I like the work that we may have each done ourselves individually in the world has actually informed much of how how these AIs and like then begin to inform their outputs, which is interesting because it's like because like when we think of labor, right? Like we're already doing labor in this way,
Right.
and then our work is being copied and becoming like formulaic, and we aren't being credited, we aren't being paid, we aren't getting any recognition for that, and then more marginalized folks are then expected to like sift through that as their labor, not get paid, recognized, respected for it, just to then keep perpetuating that cycle. And it's just so fascinating and so interesting, because I think sometimes like my struggle with AI is I don't think in some ways I don't think AI can write better than I can, but I do believe that my writing or other people's writings who are better informs than what they do. And like sometimes I'm like, AI, check, like, girl, check the material, like it's us,
Right.
like we're the ones that are making it work, because let's be clear, most likely marginalized voices are the ones that they're using to actually inform the work. It's not going to be the white voices, because those voices aren't always the best voices, IMO. So I'll just say I really love us diving into this conversation, because the rise of AI is definitely a both and for me. Like
Yeah.
I can understand the benefits of machine learning to
Yeah.
make things easier, more accessible for us as people, especially when they can be complementary to our lives. And this is point a great point of recognizing how these things aren't inherently good or bad, but they are wielded in horrible ways, and that's what makes the big difference. But what happens when they try to erase our work and us as the creators of it then, like as it's doing now? Like I think we're kind of already there in some ways, and so I'm super curious to ask you, Bunny, is maybe are there opportunities to help work on ethical AI? Can AI be
That's a
ethical?
really
Are there
good
jobs
question.
that focus
That's a
on
really good
this?
question.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yes, it can be ethical. So we have organizations like All Tech is Human, like Brookings, that are focused on researching complex issues around artificial intelligence and human rights. And there's one organization in particular that I want to name, which is DARE, and that's Distributed AI Research Institute. So what they're doing is they're focusing specifically on work that's rooted in, in their words, in the belief that AI is not something that we can avoid,
Mm-hmm.
and that the harm that it can do is preventable when it's produced in a way that is responsible and in a way that really
Mm,
includes varied perspectives that are not only white, and varied
mm.
perspectives that are really deliberate about the processes that are being developed. What I want to name too is that we know that if AI didn't exist, let's say we weren't having this conversation right now, we're having a different conversation. We know that the copy paste girls are always going to be around.
Right. Right.
Um,
Always copy
the
pasting.
copy paste girls
Mm-hmm.
is always on the internet
Yeah.
and they always copy and paste.
Yeah.
And so the fact that that already existed means that AI is more of the tool that is augmenting that or making it easier.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Um, for a number of the folks, because I'm sure there are a lot of creators that and creatives and writers that listen to you all show, I want to say that if you have a website, did you know that you can use a function on your website? You can literally click a button that makes it so that people can't use AI to surf your website and
Mm.
put content into a chat GPT.
Wait, wow, that's really, I never
Oh
knew that. That's so
no.
Yeah.
cool.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So you can do that.
plug
And
us to
so
that,
it's
because I would love to know like which one it is, how people can use it. That'd be amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
absolutely. So there's organizations like that that are really advocating for these types of changes.
Mm.
I always like to focus on right of refusal. So it's like I know that something is ethical if there's a right of refusal.
Mm-hmm.
If my
Mm.
work is being taken from the internet and being put into a data set for ChatGPT to then, provide folks with responses to or things that sound like me, I don't have a right to refuse that. So that means for me that it's not ethical.
Mm.
But I will say this, that there are a number of ways in which we still get to use AI that are really ethical. So, for example, you might be wanting to reduce some of the time that you spend writing
Mm-hmm.
emails, or maybe you've written something that you think is fairly like really wordy or really long or extensive, and you're like, hey, I want to potentially use AI to provide a synopsis to me, or use AI to kind of shorten something that I've written. Or for those folks, in terms of we're thinking about disability awareness,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody can sit down and read a 20, 40-page research paper or
Mm-hmm.
anything that's
Mm-hmm.
that long.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Mm-hmm.
might say, I want to put it into AI and have AI provide me with a synopsis. And those are it's a very short list of a very extensive list of ways in which AI can be used responsibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you mentioned that because, and this kind of ties into the next question. I love that you asked this question first because this week I was applying for something, and one of the questions was that it said if I could fix something about AI, what would it be? And I, inherently said
Mm.
bias. I think that there's still so much bias. In a lot of what I see in AI, even just some of the stuff like I know that, for instance, I had done a writer's room. It was a samples writer's room, and they told someone in the room was like, "Oh, I've been using AI to come up with different synopses and different scenarios for me to be able to kind of think about what next script I want to write." And I was like, "Oh, how cool!" And so they were
Mm.
showing us very
Mm.
in the early heyday of like Chat GPT when everyone was kind of jumping on the bandwagon. Um, but even in some of the synopsises that they were using, I could see the bias in what they were talking about, especially with like black characters or trans characters, et cetera, et
Mm.
cetera. And so, I appreciate that we're seeing more and more people talk about it, and it sucks because it's like, where in our lives can we exist without there being racism? It's like we can't even exist in a fictional world without racism, child. My God. Or any
Even the
type of
machine's
oppression, right?
racist.
The machines are even racist, but it's also like the people making the machines are racist. Okay, it makes sense. But all
Mm.
that to be
Mm.
said, I think this ties into kind of the next question. I think because oppression is everywhere and knowing that bias lives in a lot of different factions of AI, I guess I wanted to know, like, how does one go about being cautious about how they use AI, or even more if they're interested in helping to fix the issue, like, do you believe that that
Mm.
issue can one day be fixed, and if so, how?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's something that we have to continuously work at because we
Mhm.
know that bias alone is not inherently bad or evil. We
Mhm.
will always have bias.
Mm.
But when
Mm.
it becomes, for example, identity-based bias or bias that fuels violence or bias that fuels harm
Yeah.
towards people,
Yeah.
negative stigmas, and it's like, okay, now we're entering into a zone where we have to act quickly. Um, I had somebody ask me recently, they were asking me about different sort of like approaches to economies, and they were like, do you think that we can have an economy where Black and brown folks are centered, where we're taking care of each other, or maybe not everything comes down to some sort of a monetary transaction, but it's is our communities are built on care. They were like, do you think that that's possible in a capitalist society? And I'm like, well, do you think that being trans affirming is possible in a transphobic society? And they were
Mm.
like, yeah. And so I'm like, so this is similar in that if
Mhm.
we're thinking about
Mm.
creating policy and practices that address bias in AI, it's sort of like if we wanted to create trans or fat affirming healthcare and we're not doctors or hospital administrators creating those
Yeah.
policies, that means that we work from the outside collaboratively to demand an approach to healthcare and health that works for us first. Um,
Mm.
I want to name here too because I love history and I find that sometimes looking back helps me to look forward.
Mhm.
So,
Mm.
an example that I would give is during the Industrial Revolution, we went from an economy that was almost solely centered on agriculture to an economy that was centered on machines and products developed in
Yeah.
factories. And as that evolution was taking place, do we think the people in power were like, hey, what we're gonna do? We're gonna hire workers, we're gonna pay them livable wages, we're gonna make sure that they're working in safe environments, safe working conditions. They all said no. They want to make as much money as possible, so they weren't doing that. And so workers had to protest unsafe working conditions, long hours, low
Mm.
pay.
Mm.
And it was the organizers of those labor movements that created a lot of the laws that we know today. So, for
Mm.
example, having a set minimum wage, although it's still way too low, having a set maximum working hours, at least under the law, but of course, we know there's still a lot of people who break the law.
Mm.
And that helped to significantly enhance the quality of life for a lot of people in the workplace.
Mm.
So if we fast forward to now, to this decade, we think even about, right, recently the writer strike
Yeah.
as an example of this like critical dissent in the development and use of artificial intelligence, as opposed to waiting for that to happen or assuming that people who are in those positions of power are first going to know what needs to be done. And
Mhm.
secondly, are going to be as invested as we know that we are to be.
Mm.
Uh,
Damn.
yeah.
Bunny, Bunny. Oh my God, Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just living for everything you're saying. And as you were speaking, it's making me think about there's this new organization, or not maybe not new, but new to me because I've only seen them recently. But they're focused on like time economy and time poverty as they
Yeah.
frame it. Their work is really focused on helping establish a 4 day work week like on a federal level in America.
Wow.
It's interesting. So I'm seeing more and more organizations actually do 4 day work weeks as well too. And but their basis demonstrates, or their research, is demonstrating that people have time poverty, that they work too much, that work is too inaccessible for them in the first place. So how do we, one, either increase more remote jobs or increase public transit to get to jobs
Quicker.
in quick
Yeah.
and faster
Yeah.
ways, and
Mm-hmm.
so many things that they need to access, like healthcare, pharmacies, banks, right, are open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. And I think there's a lot too of like if something's open 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday, but I'm working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, how will I be able to access those things?
Right.
Right? Like I take time
Absolutely.
on my work
So
day, and
true.
thankfully I have a job that like that works with me on that. And it's like, if you have to do this, go do this, or like go do your thing. But and so the purpose of this organization is to say, if you can give people one free day that they can do those things
Yeah.
and still pay them pay them a five, and pay them a 80 hour, every pay cycle salary, but they only work 64 hours in those 2 weeks, then that frees up so much time for them to actually have a better work life balance and address the things in their life. And that like small shift really is a small shift. We actually have a monumental impact on people's lives. And
Mm.
so I appreciate you talking about how these things are possible, because um, I too often think, can these things exist in a capitalistic society? And like, yes, they actually can, because capitalistic it was just a construct in the first place. Like, everything we have is a construct by somebody above us, or the people who want to do exploitation, into making something that was never real before. And so clearly, to your point, the labor movement has showed how we actually can change things. So I appreciate you giving hope in that way of saying these things are possible to do. They require a lot of work, and it's sad because as our society grew, the barriers also grew with
Yep.
that, and making it harder for us to make change. But hearing you say it's possible is like really helpful. And I want to shift a bit now into your work with MMG. Is it MMG, or is it Image? Like is it Image? I was wondering if it was like MMG was Image,
It's
or
MMGE, but image I
okay.
might take that now.
You should. Yes, I was gonna say that's
Come on, Image, because when I saw, I was like MMG Earth, and then I was like Image Earth, go off Image Earth.
yeah,
But
yeah,
okay, trademark it. But okay, so I want to get into work with Image Earth, because it's got something that I haven't seen before, at least in the way that it shows itself. Like, it says we build worlds, right? Which is really
yeah.
makes me think of Octavia Butler and Adrienne Marie Brown, forms of world building. So I want to ask, like, what does that look like in the practice for yourself of change management, and how do you build worlds in organizations today, and new ones through your lens?
Mm.
Thank you so much for asking me this, and thank you so much for that name idea. I'm gonna take that back to my team. I'm gonna run with it. So I'll
Just
say
like one
that.
credit, please.
Yeah.
just like one
No
credit, okay?
problem, especially we're talking about ethics here.
I was like,
So,
come on.
Yeah.
the concept of world building, as you all have already noted, comes from Black music, Black art, Black poetry, Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a nod in honor of these influences, of all that Black people, especially Black queer, trans, and non-binary people have done to create new
Yeah.
worlds in the midst of a society that has been designed to steal our creativity and power away from us. We know that in the 30-year history of the change management industry, which has been predominantly white, that change managers have been encouraged to focus on an individual problem from a
Mm.
deficit perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense, because when you think about it, that's what colonialism does. It's, well, here's a deficit, here's what these Black and brown folks don't have, and here's how we need to save them
Mm-hmm.
from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they tend to lead processes that act as if injustice and corruption and equity don't exist. And that was a problem for me. That's one of the reasons why I decided to start MMG Earth, because for me it was understanding that if we ignore a problem, it gets bigger. And when we take the opportunity to address a problem, it either gets smaller or it
Mm-hmm.
becomes more understood because we know these
Mm-hmm.
are difficult problems, so they can't just be solved overnight. We use a four environments framework in our change management work. And so that's focused on the inner self. So, like, what's happening with me individually? What are my
Mm-hmm.
beliefs? And not just about what I believe about other people, but what do I believe to be true about me? Because, of course, we find that that tends to be one of the main points of resistance we have come up is not even so much about folks who don't want a problem to be solved, but more so that folks experience, especially people who are historically disenfranchised, experience a lot of self-hatred
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of self-critique that I think can get in the way of them experiencing power.
Mm-hmm.
There's the human bonds piece because we know that we can't really solve problems in a silo. We have to do it in community with others. There's
Yeah.
economics because we know we need the money, we need the resources. And then finally, there's power, climate, and society. So it's understanding how culture and society come together, how our environment comes into play,
Mm.
and then also how power comes into play, how it flows within our society.
Yeah.
So, the question that I get all the time is like, okay, but what do you actually do? And mainly from my mama.
Yeah. My
And
mom
that
asked
is
the same question, child, and I've been doing the same
Parents
thing for
are
15
always.
years. Always. What do you
so you
do?
really have a job?
Yeah. I'm like, Mom, I just paid your rent.
You do
Okay.
work, right? Like you do work,
I
right?
just
Because the
paid
money
one
comes
of
from
your
somewhere.
bills. Yes,
That's
I
what.
work.
And this is you didn't hit no licks now.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So we've used this framework
yeah.
specifically to design approaches to redistributing wealth. So, for example, I started with myself. We redistributed over $1.4 million of our own profit
Mm.
within the course of a year.
Okay.
We
Yes.
use it to design new products for organizations and corporations. We use it to develop approaches to improving agriculture and approaches to agriculture that are pro-Black, for example, that are
Mm.
pro-Brown,
Mm-hmm.
pro-Indigenous.
Mm.
And we do a lot of work with local government agencies, with tech companies and foundations. So, I think that I have one of the best jobs in the world because I get to be a part of developing solutions to very complex problems. And since I was a kid growing up on the south side of Chicago, I was told we're not solvable.
Mm-hmm.
And that puts me in a very different kind of a position now and affords me a perspective that I'm, very grateful for. And I'm grateful to community also to be in this position to be able to solve problems alongside a team of highly, highly qualified and brilliant people.
You just gave us the title of our episode. The title of this episode gonna be "Black Solutions to Complex Problems." I know that's right. I said I know that's right. Black solutions. I'm here for it. Yes.
Love it. Love that title.
Yes, yes. As soon as you said it, I said, "Ooh, let me type this out. Let me go ahead and make sure that I get this, so I don't be struggling trying to find a topic for next week's when I post this."
Perfect.
But no,
Uh,
yes, I love this, and I love that the thing that I hear that I think is what makes me so excited. Not only I tell people, and people know this about me, I'm a secret tech head, so my partner hates it because tech runs in and out throughout my whole life, right? Down to my phones, down to, I have the home pods, I have the Apple TVs, I have the smart TVs, I have all of the smarts that, the smarts can have. And, I'm constantly keeping my eye, on what AI is doing, who's doing what, and who's involved in what too, right? And so it's really cool to note that, not only for me as a black fat femme, but also to know that there's someone like yourself who was so versed in knowing kind of the background of this. I'm happy that there's a resource, not only just you as a resource, but other black queer people who are in the fold
yeah.
that are saying, let's have more. We need to be in the fold of this. We need to be making products that make sure that we're looking out for us. So that's really cool. So speaking about your products, one of the things I know that you shared with us that I wanted you to be able to kind of mention was the AI racial justice toolkit. So I wanted you to be able to tell folks a little bit more about that, and then also too the more important part of that, right? Not only just the self promotion piece, which we love on the show, but why folks should be paying attention to it. Like, why is that even needed in this time with AI?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So the AI and Racial Justice Toolkit, you mentioned earlier the word resource, so
Yeah.
that's what I would use to describe it too,
Mm.
is that it's a resource to help people in our communities engage in conversations around racial justice and artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so to do that, we have filled it with case studies, with activities, with reflection activities in particular. And we thoughtfully curated an extensive list of resources so people can also go to other places and learn from other folks, and not just from us. We worked on it with a group also of incredible technologists and researchers to kind of bring it to life. And to date, it's been downloaded over 1,000 times by readers
Wow.
in Brazil,
That's
South
cool.
Africa, Mexico, Colombia, Germany, India, Sweden, Bulgaria, and other countries. And we won an Anthem Award for it, for a
Yay.
leading global awareness campaign. Thank you. I'm so excited about
Yes.
that.
Insert clap, insert clap.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
right. So there is one case study in particular that
Mm.
I found myself particularly drawn to because it's based in Chicago and it focuses on the impacts that predictive policing had on an individual's life on the west
Mm-hmm.
side of Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
meaning police officers using a technology that predicts how likely someone is to engage in
Mm.
a crime or to break the law. So you know that's coming up us all day,
Right. Right.
right? And
Mm.
that's what they're being led to, and using technology as a way to kind of like attempt to conceal racism when really it's just like you all are just making assumptions based on race.
Right. Right.
Um,
Mm.
but why do we need it? Well, we need the toolkits like this, not just this one, but many toolkits like this and many opportunities for education. One of the reasons is that last year, Community Tech Network reported that about 70%, for example, of the Black community reports being unprepared with digital skills,
Yeah.
which impact their ability to be employed. And as work becomes more and more remote, it increases the likelihood that they'll be left behind. We also know that based on that report, without intervention, about 86% of Black and Latinx workers could be completely left out of the job market by 2045.
Mm.
So, and that's just about digital literacy. So that's not even talking about yet
Mm.
like artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
This is by
Mm.
design because they do not want us to know how to use technology.
Yep.
Because of course, technology, it not only opens up opportunities, but it opens up possibility.
Yep.
If I can build
Mm.
an artificial intelligence that identifies, for example, racism before it happens, there are going to be a lot of folks that don't want that kind of technology to be used
Mm.
because they want racism to be perpetuated. They want to
Yeah.
continue to be mediocre
Yeah.
and they want to
Mm.
continue to disenfranchise us. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's using one tool as a way to kind of open up that possibility.
Yeah.
And potentially, hopefully, my goal is that even if people don't read the whole thing, they just read a page or two, or they just read a sentence or two, and they're like, "Wow, I just learned something new that I didn't know before."
Yeah. Again, an amazing. It's so amazing to know that that resource exists.
Yeah, for
Truly,
sure.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you so much for sharing this with us. I mean, the work that I do in my 9 to 5 focuses on advancing racial equity, and I'm definitely be sharing this resource
Mm-hmm.
with my team as well too, because I know that our team uses AI in some capacity. I think it'd be very fascinating for us to share and also inform the possibility of like the work that I do because my work is in grant making. I'd be curious to see
Mhm.
how this can inform like what like who might discover to resource or how or like how they might do their work and how it can be ethical and impactful. So thank you so much for this. For the last question, I just want to dive a little bit about who you are, because repping Chicago the way that you do, I'm curious to ask how does Chicago, past and present and future, how does Chicago inform your world building?
Oh my gosh. And probably want to say probably almost every way. I will say that, just like a lot of Chicagoans, and I know sometimes we get on people's nerves, that's why they be always throwing us in the memes about how much we love Chicago. But I'm fine with that because when I think about Chicago, I think about, the Black femmes who came before me. So I think about my grandmother, Marjorie Mack, who was originally from Mississippi, came to Chicago for a better life during the Great Migration, worked in the Sara Lee factory to care for her
Mm-hmm.
family. And y'all can take Sara Lee out because they didn't give y'all a check. And then I also think about my great grandmother, Irene,
Yeah.
who ran an illegal betting ring out of her apartment in Chicago because she was like, hey, there's
Mm.
no jobs. People don't want to hire me. So we going to do betting in my apartment. And she used that to pay the rent.
I love it.
So for me, I think that Chicago is a city that will teach you, especially, as a Black queer person, how to defend yourself, how to protect your community, if you allow it to, and how to love yourself and others around you. In one of the most segregated cities in the world, I learned how to dream of an outcome for my life that I'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And Black writers helped me to build that skill, Black dancers, Black poets, Black actors. So when you experience that level of divestment in your community, in such a vibrant and beautiful city at that, and you can still dream of something better, not only for yourself, but for others around you, that's something that can't really be taken away from you.
Right. Right.
And I think there's also no way I'm not using those skills for the rest of my life, well into my 80s, and 90s. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
highly, highly transferable skill.
Yeah.
Mm.
And ain't nobody more
Mm.
resourceful than a black person, y'all. I always say that. Just we be
Right.
so resourceful, and we just
Okay.
know how to just. And that's what I was gonna ask you too. Kind of doubling back to the thought. Like, I don't know. Before we go to commercial, I did want to ask you what are your thoughts on Southside the show.
Oh yeah.
About how accurate that is in terms of repping Chicago, and how it informs the way you feel about Chicago as well.
Southside the Show, probably one of the most accurate depictions of Black Chicagoans that I've ever seen
Yeah.
on television.
I love
So
it.
hilarious.
Hmm.
And a lot of the things that they write about in this show, I have experienced directly and personally. So I love that show. The writing is
It
amazing.
is
Acting is
amazing.
amazing.
I think I'm gonna start from episode 1 and watch it again, so that way I can retake it in,
Yes,
because it's just such a good show, especially
I haven't watched it yet, so
oh
I'm
my
definitely
god,
gonna
it
watch
is
it now.
so good. It is such a good show. It
it's
is
so
so
good.
oddly
Yeah.
funny. The writing on it is perfect. But with that being said, we actually have to take a break. And so before Eagle Eye cuts the cord on both us and Bunny, we are gonna come back more, and we're gonna talk more about what's on our plate. We'll be back in a sec.
Welcome back, fam. This week, we're taking our food back because we could not have Bunny here, a Chicago native, and not talk about food because I know Chi-Town folks know a little
Oh,
something,
they
something
throw
about some
down.
good
I
food.
know they know.
So, okay, we know that you know. So we want to ask, what foods do you feel like put Chicago on the map? I'll I'll start about some foods foods from my hood. John can share about theirs, and then we'll get into Bunny. So since I'm a NorCal native, I'm a keeper in NorCal. I live in SoCal now, but I'm a keeper in NorCal. I grew up next to Fremont, which was home to the largest Afghan community in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the way I tear up some Afghan naan with some kofta kebabs,
Mm-hmm.
like you cannot find that anywhere else besides in Fremont. And the way, oh, there's this eggplant dish that I
Nope.
love so much. It'd be
You already know
you
how I
say
feel
no, but if you
about
try this
eggplant.
shit, you
Mm-mm.
try this shit, bitch. Oh my
Nope.
god, it's so bomb. So like Afghan food, the Bay has some of the best, in my opinion, the best Asian diasporic food. Like
Yeah.
I really think about one like living in an area where in literally a mile of my house was Laotian, Mongolian, Thai, Taiwanese, Japanese,
Mm.
Chinese, um, Filipino, Vietnamese, like all that within a mile, right? Like you get every part of the diaspora. And so the way I think about Chinese food, particularly and Indian food, Indian food in my hometown, saag paneer,
My
no
God.
one can touch it. No one can touch it. And some dosas. I have not had a dosa in so long. I fuck with dosas heavy. My childhood. There's not a place around here that I found that even does dosas. So I'm in the hunt. If anyone in San Diego knows where I can find a good dosa, please let me know. And lastly, cannot forget about how much good Filipino food there is in the Bay.
Mm.
Ooh, do you know
Mm-hmm.
how much I miss?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much I miss living 10 minutes from a Jollibee?
Oh my
That's
gosh.
that's what I miss sometimes the most. Is I used to live 10 minutes from Jollibee. Now I go there all the time with my friends, and now I'm like, is there one even around here anywhere? Like I have to go like 20, 30 minutes to find some good lumpia, and I mean good
Oh my
lumpia because
God. Why so far?
there is because there are some places that have lumpia around me, but
Oh
they're not necessarily good
no.
lumpia. Okay, I gotta travel far for my pansy. I gotta travel far for my adobo, and I just miss the accessibility that I would have
Mm-hmm.
when I was in the Bay. Maybe there's a spot nearby that I don't know yet, so someone who listens to the show and lives in my area can put me on. But right now I know nothing. But those things are the things that I'm like, NorCal got it going on all the way in those places. So that's me. Bunny, how about you?
Oh my gosh. Do we have time for my full list?
Go
Yes,
for it.
So what
please.
foods put Chicago on the
We have
map?
much
I
as
will
you have.
say definitely it's a lot of grease, which I love. And I know
Hmm.
there's going to be some Michelin star award winning chefs that are going to cringe at that answer. But it's the deep dish. Gotta have our Giordano's, gotta have our Illuminati's. It's the thin crust.
Ooh.
It's Chicago hot dogs. I love Clark Street dogs personally. It's the Harold's. It's the corned beef sandwiches. I love also AP Deli.
Ooh,
Um,
I'm
Mm.
taking notes. I'm taking notes. Yes. Mm.
it's the vegan Indian food because I wish I
Ooh.
could be friends with dairy, but dairy does not want to be my friend. But the vegan Indian, so good. Also one of my most favorite Costa Rican restaurants, Arazu. Food is amazing. It is BYOB.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to the drinks in Chicago. So both alcoholic and for sober curious folks, bomb all the way. And then one of my most favorite sandwich coffee shops is on the south side of Chicago. It's called Afro Joe's. Incredible sandwiches, pastries, hot teas, black
Mm.
owned. And they have an outside where dog lovers can keep their dog
Oh, how
pounds on the
cool.
outside.
Yeah.
And I love that too.
Oh my
Listen,
lord.
you keep your dogs over there. You keep your dogs over there. You ain't got, you don't put them around me, but keep them over there.
Yeah, we have a couple of restaurants where I live at. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Lazy Dog, but Lazy Dog is the same way. They have a
I love
patio
some lazy dog.
where they
Love me some
their
lazy
food is
dog.
good,
Awesome, bomb.
but they do have a
The
patio. And a
bomb.
lot of the restaurants that are popping up over by where I live, they have patios now for animals and stuff. That I'm seeing more and more people bring their their dogs and stuff out, and so that's been cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm not. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something? No. Okay.
Oh no, I just said I love that.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say because I want to make sure I don't step on nobody now. I was gonna say a lot of folks. So we're probably gonna get some heat from this from our listeners, but you know what? Ain't nothing that we can't deal with. There is a lot of talk. Okay, let me address the family. This is a family conversation. There are a lot of people who like to come to the table and just say, "Oh, you can't. The best Mexican food is in Texas. The best this is that is in here and, no, no, no. The best Mexican food and the best Chinese food is in SoCal. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear it. I have been to 38 states. 38 states of the 50 states. Okay, because I'd start counting, and I was like, I actually been to 38. Been to 38 states. I have never had Mexican food or Chinese food that is better than California's, specifically SoCal, San Diego, all that area down there. Um, you can't beat us. You can't. Now I will
As
give it
someone
to
who lives
Texas.
border
Texas,
adjacent,
they got the
yes.
barbecue and all that on lock. I will say that Chicago, you got your pizzas, you got your coney dogs, all of that. That's y'all. Y'all got the popcorn. Y'all got the popcorn on lock. I ain't never Garrett. Was it Uncle Garrett? Is that who that is? Uncle Garrett with the different flavors of the popcorn it'll make your blood pressure rise because you got to go to the doctor and take some. It's too salty. Yeah, Garrett. All that is y'all, but y'all don't come for us with our Mexican food and Chinese food. I'm sorry, it's just real. It's real. We got the best
I
Mexican
mean,
and Chinese food.
I'll just say, as someone who lives 20 minutes from the border of Mexico in California, agreed. Now, I could give it to Texas. I could give it to Texas
Mm-mm.
because they also are a border region. I can give it to them like in their own way. I have heard some Tex-Mex can be bomb.
Oh no.
I know people can throw down. I have a friend who was raised in Texas, came to San Diego and was like, listen, it's not that it's better, it's just different, and I can roll with different, right? Like Tex-Mex is
I
different
don't want it.
than the I
Mm-mm.
mean, I would taste, but I will say you can never beat us in tacos. Like you just can't beat us in tacos. Like there's just no way. There's no way y'all gonna be being at the border for tacos. Just how easy it is to get some. So I would say yes on that. Now Chinese food, I will say I'm sus. I have not had great Chinese food in San
You
Diego.
ain't eating at the
So I'll be
right
curious.
places then.
If you know where they at, you let me know.
Yeah,
You
I
come over
I
and
need
you
a
let me
Chinese.
know.
So
Take me.
again, I'm
Cause
probably gonna be on a lot of people's list of canceled, but I need a Chinese food. So I tell people, Panda Express, like all of those fast food Chinese food, that is not Chinese food. I want
I
my
was about to say it's
Chinese
good. I
food
love it like
where the menu is almost like you can't see it because the steam from the food has literally taken all the ink out the paper. I want someone in the front yelling at the person in the back to order. I need that. That tells me that it's authentic. I need to know that there might be a child playing in the dining room area and the mom or the dad is yelling at that child to sit down. So that way, like, I need the experience. I need the cultural experience. Also, someone told me, one of my friends told me that I don't know where I was. I think I was actually in North Carolina. Someone was telling me that in most Chinese food places, specifically Chinese food places in SoCal, they have a secret menu. So the menu that we see is not the actual menu that they give to other Chinese folks who come into
I'm not
the
surprised because
restaurant.
you think other folks are just saying like, yes, I want orange
Yeah,
chicken.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. They
you
said that
think
they
other
also
like,
have.
yeah,
So if there are
it
any
makes sense.
listeners who can tell me where to go to get this secret menu so I can taste it, please, I am open to it. But no, I'm definitely gonna stick to my guns on this one. Mexican and Chinese is SoCal all day.
I've been craving Chinese food too. So, John, when next time we visit, we gonna find a
We
place,
gonna
or
do it.
I'm gonna come up to you and we gonna find a place as well. Okay. Well, y'all, we once again have left y'all hungry. We gonna take a quick break so y'all can address your cravings, grab a snack, and come on back.
All right, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and get into our last segment of the show, your favorite, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, Pam. And this week, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Then Bunny will give it to you, your yes, ma'am, and your no, ma'am. And then we'll close out with Joho. Again, for everybody, yes, for those of you who might be new to the show, thank you for listening. But also for those of you who don't know what yes, ma'am, this is an opportunity for us to either give people their flowers or to throw them at them. And so with that being said, for me this week, my yes ma'am is seeing Candace Owens get what she deserves. Um, Catch it. This is just a kind and firm reminder, especially to my black people that think that whiteness is going to be their friend and is going to save them. Baby, it never works out for you. It didn't work out for Kanye. It didn't work out. It don't work out for you. Like, a lot of us believe that if we play the game of white supremacy, that it's going to help us get further, et cetera, et cetera. And no, it never does. And it only
Never
lasts until
does.
white people start being white. And I love saying that. That is something that a friend to our show, Xavier Delo, says. White people are great until they get white on you. And it's
Oof.
something to just kind of pay attention to, because we've definitely seen it happen more than once. So with that being said, seeing Candace Owens have to, put her tail back between her legs and walk it back to the black community has been interesting to see. And no, I'm not celebrating it. No, this won't be a Don Lemon moment. Don Lemon didn't. There were a lot of things Don Lemon did do. What he did is totally different than what Candace Owens did. And if we want to talk about it, we can talk about it in a later episode because we are running low on time. On the other hand, my no man Pam this week. So I don't want to make. Normally, I make jokes and I'll kiki about this. I'm just gonna say it and kind of let it be what it is. Your favorite rapper is going to jail. It is what it is. Diddy is going to
Mm-hmm.
jail. It's just, there's no other way to put it. There's just, at this
Mm.
point, and it's just sad because it's like, I think my no ma'am is I'm grateful. So I'll say this: I'm grateful, kind of in a yes man. This is kind of a both and for me. I'm grateful for the people who had the bravery to step up and say, Diddy did this to me. Diddy didn't do this for me, or Diddy was had something to do with this thing that happened to me. I'm
Mhm.
really grateful, and I want to shout out the victims in the sense of saying, I know it's hard to put your story out there and then have to deal with people not believing you. Where my no ma'am lies is the folks that, how do I say this? There are a lot of people who Diddy basically waved carrots in front of a lot of people's faces. He
Mm.
told them that they were going to be successful. He tried to, told them that he was going to give them careers. And
Yep.
again, a
Mhm.
lot of this is, and I want to say, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing that come out in the news, it's alleged. So I want to be clear in saying that, we don't want to get sued.
Mhm.
I definitely just want to say that a lot of this stuff is alleged. However, there is a lot of stuff where it's, my mom would always say, two people ain't gonna say the same thing and it not be true. And I'm just looking at a lot of the stuff that's coming out and a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing in the news, and I am sending so much love to the victims, but at the same time I'm
Mm.
looking at Diddy and I'm going, girl, why? Like like what was it worth it? Like for what? Like, and again, I get money,
Mm.
power, all of that plays a lot into this, but my no man Pam this week is Diddy. And also too, Russell Simmons. They got his ass over in the Bahamas too. Or he was in Bali. I take that back. He was in Bali. And they served him his papers too. So it'll be I'm really happy to see these really terrible people in this industry get their comeuppance. So
Mm.
what about you? Bunny, what are your yes ma'ams and no man pams this week?
Oh, how do I follow that? So I think I think I'll say my yes man would be LSU making it to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA Women's Championship,
Yeah.
and also ratings for NCAA women's games being about 60% higher this year, and in some cases
Yes.
higher than the men's team's ratings, which I think is really, really exciting for women's sports.
Yes.
Mhm.
Um, no, ma'am, I'm gonna have to go to Boeing. CEO Dave
Oh my
Calhoun stepping
God.
down in leadership.
Yes.
And that is a no, ma'am, for me because it comes about 5 years after two
Oh.
crashes killed 346 people,
Yeah. Yeah.
mostly black
Mm.
and brown folks. And so the
Mm-hmm.
fact that he even had a choice to step down and was not fired 5 years ago is a no, ma'am, for me.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And this all coming with me
Whew.
sitting and counting all the flights that I have to take in the next 4 weeks. Oh my God. Yeah. And
LOL.
I'm
At me, at me flying back on a Boeing Max
oh
737
my God.
on Sunday. Like, please, Lord Jesus, don't not let this be. Don't let this
I
be the end of
know.
me and not survive a whole
I'm
Mm,
ship
like, please
just to
just give
get
us a
got by a
fast.
plane.
yeah. Just
I'm
give
like,
us
give
the
us a high
vest.
speed train.
Yeah. Just give us
Give
the
us a high
vest.
speed train, solar powered.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Just get, yeah, go ahead, just put me on the train, but even then crash too, because people, I'll say this and then I'll give the floor back
you.
over to you, Joho. I'll say the frustration is, as I was watching the news yesterday as the news broke about him stepping down, and I will say the thing I kept thinking about is greed. There was a person who had come on and they were talking about how
Mm.
they were so, I think he said it was about maybe 5 to 10 years ago that they changed the way that their processes worked, and about how, like, the oversight of the planes and all of that, and it just, I was
Yeah.
sitting with him and I was
Hmm.
listening to him talk about how the process has changed, and I just kept thinking, greed is going to kill us because people are so consumed with trying to get a dollar rather than making sure that
Mm.
people can arrive safely to their next destination. So
Absolutely.
Mm.
yeah. Ugh.
Mm.
But anyway, what about you,
Ooh.
Joho?
Ooh. Okay, well, so first I'll just say, Candace Owens, girl, if you ever hear this, it is just so funny that you hate cancel culture, and yet it came to cancel you. That's just funny. That's just ain't isn't it ironic? It isn't irony just funny for us sometimes. So I'll say
Traffic
that to that.
jam when you're already
Oh,
late. A no smoking sign on your cigarette break.
Okay, exactly. I live and. Yeah, I will say, like, I'll just say, I don't wish incarceration on any black person or a person of color. I do wish justice be served. So I'm like, ugh, I don't want anyone to be incarcerated, but also I hope there is a form of justice that is happening here with Diddy because shit needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
My X Men Pam is gonna go to the show X Men 97.
Yes,
That recently premiered on Disney Plus I put Disney Channel in the show notes. Well, I'm so old. Disney Plus as a sequel to the '90s series, and oh my god, it was a beautiful series premiere for so many reasons, but especially because of how they really became even more vocal about their themes relating to racism, homophobia, transphobia, etc., and so on and so forth. Like, people, X-Men has always been my favorite comic since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's been the one thing that I've been praying and waiting for in the MCU. Like, I'm excited that they're finally gonna bring it up there. I'm happy that Disney finally has the rights to it. I mean, Disney is interesting place for all this, but like, I'm happy that they have the rights to actually do this work now, and I'm excited for it because I mean, this season premiere was just a perfect launch. So I hope it'll continue being this powerful because it's just so good, and like I mean, it just show. I think it's gonna be a show that really reinforces how amazing even animated storytelling can be,
Mm-hmm.
and how and when we think of like world building in the lens of X-Men is so fascinating and so cool. And I think there's so many allegories and parallels to our world today that I think people can take from this show. And I hope the show will last for a long time. I have choice words still of how the creator of the show, Bo DeMaio, was forced to leave from his role as creator of the show before the series premiered, and I have thoughts about that, but that's neither here nor there. I hope that if this season is a reflection of him, I hope that they'll consider bringing him back for the next seasons, because this so far is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure the first episodes was a reflection of his work that he put into it, and if that's an indication of how great he is, and he needs to be involved in some way. But no, ma'am, Pam is to, and I won't be really intentional in saying this. So my No Man Pam is to the signing of the recent spending bill that essentially just allows pride flags to be waved over the U.S. embassies for $1.2 trillion. I'm not inherently mad with Biden himself. People are mad at Biden for it because I understand. I understand the why. I understand that he signed it because it was so much work to get this bill passed before government closed down, which obviously they don't want government to close, which part of me is like, it's so dumb because when it closes, it does affect all of us in the worst ways. And I'm always like, that's so funny that you want to close, because you will make us do nothing. You will make us go out of jobs and go out of money. But y'all literally throw a tantrum for missing one day of work when you should get paid for it, but go off work. But I'm mad. I'm upset that the LGBTQIA2S plus community was used as a bargaining chip in this way.
Amen.
There were
Amen.
over 50 riders, riders or clauses in that bill that got taken out that were targeting queer and trans folks, and one that was kept in was to disallow the flying of pride flags over U.S. embassies. And I'm like, I mean, one, as I told John this morning, part of me is like, wow, we're really on your minds that much. Y'all really pressed about us so badly that you really we need to take away your pride flags. Girl, y'all are really stressed about us. That's wild.
It's given obsession.
Let it be known that we are at least worth $1.2 trillion, bitches.
Right.
Okay, we're the queer dollar is strong in this house, but I'm still just I'm still really just upset at the fact that we had to be bargained like this.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad that it's to me the flag is not the most significant thing that it could have been a lot worse for so many reasons. But it's just this weird ick of damn, our government is really bargaining with our visibility and our representation just to get money. And at what point will it be for our rights in our lives? So
and that's already started. That's already started.
It's all exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm pressed like a panini about it, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And
that's my
and kind of back to your point, Bunny, from earlier. You know, talking about celebrity and all of this, and I've heard multiple people on social media say this notion of it's not going to be politicians, it's not going to be celebrities. We've got to get away from this notion of thinking that these people are going to be the ones that save us and help
Yeah.
us. It's never going to be them. Their interest will always be vetted in what's going to keep them safe and comfortable. And so, when people throw out stuff about the government, like you just shared, I always tell people I want to be surprised. I literally wake up every day going, I just wish something would surprise me, because it seems literally everything at this point is just okay, that's to be expected. I get it. It's just very much everyone's doing whatever is in their best interest, because again, capitalism. But all that to be said, please send us, oh my God, please send us your thoughts, feedback, and emails to blackfatfempod@gmail.com. You can also send us your thoughts via social medias by interacting with us and our post on Instagram and Twitter by using the handle @blackfatfempod. We also love the new subscribers and the folks that are watching the videos. Feel free to leave your comments there. I think it might actually be cool that if we start seeing comments in the videos and stuff, we'll start checking all of our socials and answering the questions and thoughts that folks have. So, yeah. leave us your stuff. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know how you respond to these conversations. And as much as folks are listening and seeing like this stuff impacts us all, like as much as it may not feel like it's impacting you right now in this moment, it is coming for you. I've been saying since the beginning of the show, we're on episode 88. I've been saying ever since the first episode, if it's going to come for us in the morning, it will come for you in the night, honey. This stuff is real.
Baby.
And we definitely need to be paying attention to it.
You're on the menu.
Huh?
Okay. I said, baby, if you aren't at the table, you're on the
Hello,
menu. So.
or in the freezer, ready to be chopped up. That's what it's coming down to at this point, baby. We're all sitting ducks. But anyway, with that being said, Bunny, where can the dolls find you?
So they can find me on Threads, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn at McKensie Mack, which is with an S. And also they can find MMG Earth at mmg.earth.
Okay, I was Image Earth. Come on, MMG Earth. Image Earth, yes, yeah. I can't wait to see that rebranding. Queen Joho, where can the dolls find you?
Of course, my loves, you can find me at Joho Downs across all the socials. If not there, you will find me at the nearest rodeo, getting my two-step and my line dancing on to Cowboy Carter, because it will be released by the time the show is out, and I am ready to giddy the fuck up, ho! Yes!
I'm pretty sure our whole episode. So for folks who are listening, just know the episode after this one will probably be an entire episode about Cowboy Carter. And you're just going to have to deal with it. We didn't give you a full episode for the Renaissance. We talked about some of the visuals. We talked about, stuff related to it, but we didn't give you a full episode. But the next episode will probably be an entire episode dedicated to the importance of Cowboy Carter.
That's going to be. Mm-hmm.
Just putting that out there now, wanting to make sure people know that this will always be a Beyonce zone. So, as for me, you can find me on the internet screaming at Giselle about where these Rennie visuals are because I'm not ready to let it go yet. Like, how you gonna drop a whole 3-hour movie and then not put it on streaming for me to watch at my leisure? You did it with the Netflix one. You do it for everything else, Giselle, but you can't do it for this one, huh? I can't get the Renaissance link so I can stream it at my leisure. So I can watch it on a plane in my Vision Pros. I can't do that, Giselle. Okay. All right. I still love you. I'm still rocking the perfume. I'm still using your hair care products. So I think people think that I have an issue with Giselle. Giselle is not. I have no problem with Giselle. I love her to death. I just talk to her this way because I love her. I love Giselle so much, but I'm going to need her to make choices that benefit me too. And at this point in time, I need that streaming link, Giselle. I need it. I really do. Anyway, you can also find me at Dr. John Paul, or you can visit the website, www.drjohnpaul.com. We'd like to thank our producer, Bay Wang, for handling all of the logistics to make this show happen. We also want to thank our supervising producer, Rebecca Ramos and Anna Hosnia, for the support that they give us because, my Lord Jesus Christ, don't we all need a little bit of support? We would also like to shout out our wonderful editor, engineer, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Chris Rogers, for all that they do with the show and down to the YouTubes, because also without them, there'd be no show. This is another one. Thank you for listening. Stay black, fat, femme, and fabulous. And remember, he who laughs first, laughs longest. I love us for real. Bye.